Hey guys, today we are going to talk about symmetry. You've probably heard that word before, whether something looked symmetrical or asymmetrical. So we're going to talk about what that means. So here's some examples. This, not really symmetrical. That means that you can't cut it in half this way and have it look the same on both sides if you were to flip it over, okay? This side, it kind of looks like it might be a little symmetrical, I suppose, if you flipped it over that line. But if you flip it this way and that way, it wouldn't work, okay? Now a circle is very symmetrical. It doesn't matter where you cut it, where you flip it. You flip it any direction over itself after cutting it in half, and it's symmetrical. A circle has what's called radial symmetry. That means you can rotate it and it looks the same no matter which way you rotate it to. Something else that has radial symmetry, a starfish. Because even when you rotate a starfish, as long as you're rotating it to the point, it looks the same basically in all directions. So it has radial symmetry. Oops, bummer. That means I could cut it here and flip it and it would be the same. I could cut it here and flip it and it would be the same. I could cut it here, flip it, would be the same, and you could rotate it. It would be generally the same on all sides. Some things have bilateral symmetry. That means if you cut it in half, like say the face of a human or an animal of some kind, in general, animals are symmetrical, which means if you were to cut it in half and flip this side over to that side, they would about look the same. Now with humans, maybe you have a beauty mark or a mole on one side and you flip it over and it wouldn't be the same on the other side because now it's on the wrong side, right? But in general, you have one eye on both sides. You have one nostril on both sides of this midline. You've got half a mouth on both sides. You got one ear on both sides. In general, you got one arm on each side, one leg on each side. And some people might not. But in general, mammals are bilateral, which means if you were to divide them down this invisible line and cut one side and flip the other side, a mirror image, they would be the same. Okay? And this random blob that I drew right here kind of looks like it would be bilateral. But if something has radial symmetry, you can rotate it and it will be the same. So today we're going to talk about fruit that has radial symmetry. Okay? Here's an example of an avocado. It doesn't have radial symmetry. It has bilateral symmetry. When you cut it in half, you've got two halves that are about the same, and when you cut it again, both sides kind of match up, but it's skinnier on the top and fatter on the bottom, right? If you were to cut it right here and rotate it, now it would be fat on the top and smaller on the bottom, and the pit would be moved down here, right? So it's not exactly the same. It doesn't have radial symmetry. But an orange or a lemon or a lime, pomegranate, some of those things would have radial symmetry where you cut it and you rotate it and it's the same generally on each side. Something else might be like a starfruit. Let's see, what else? An apple, not exactly, just because of the way the seeds are arranged and things like that. Now a strawberry, if you draw a normal strawberry like this, the side view, it does not have radial symmetry. But if you were to look at it from the top down, then it might appear to have radial symmetry, like you could rotate it and it would look the same on both sides. So today we're going to focus on cross sections of citrus fruit, or if you want, you could try a pomegranate or a kiwi or something a little bit different, but I'm going to work on citrus fruit today. So you can either do it where you're drawing a lot of different pieces of fruit to fill up your page, or you can pick one cross section of a fruit, like this for example, to make it blown up and big and take up the whole page, just to give it that pop, that extra, that color, that deep color. And I really like this because it looks super light here, especially with the light shining on it, reflecting. It almost looks like a sunburst, okay? And then it goes to these darker colors. It looks like flames almost. And then we have this contrasting blue color. I also tried one with purple in the background, and that one turned out really good too. So this is kind of what I'm going to be working on today, but you could also, like I said, be doing several cross sections of the same kind of fruit and fill the page. I kind of tried to make up my own fruit that was a greenish yellow, and it was kind of a not so good. It doesn't look near as good as this one, so I'm going to do one more like this. I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so oops, here we go. So you start with your paper, you get yourself a sharpened pencil, and you draw a section of a circle. I'm just going to do part of a circle. I don't want to do the whole fruit this time. Okay? This is the outer edge of my orange. And I'm going to go about a quarter to a half inch in from that and do another circle. Aww. And that's going to be just the edge of the pulp and the outer peel of this orange. Then on the inside, I'm going to do what looks to me kind of like a starburst, like you would see with a word in a comic like Batman or something that goes Shazam or pow. And then from that, I'm going to come out about half an inch from the edge, the rind, the peel, and I'm going to kind of do almost like a pizza crust looking thing coming out. Okay, I'm going to go out about the same amount from the edge here, and another one to join it. Okay, hopefully you see the pattern. It almost reminds me of pizza crust, but really it's going to be the edges of all these wedges of orange, these sections of the orange, or grapefruit, or lemon, or lime, whatever you choose. I'm going to put kind of a circle in the middle too. Okay, now you can use a variety of mediums to do this. You could use pencil, you can use pastel, you can use paint. If you want to kill your hand, colored pencil takes a while, but you can get it dark as long as you press really hard. Well, this obviously I didn't press very hard, but the color's just not as bright as this. This was oil pastel, so if you have that, you can use that, or if you have watercolor or paint, you can use that. Crayons even might be still better than colored pencils, but you can do it with colored pencils if you have to. Okay, but I'm going to stick with oil pastels, I think. Actually, you know what, maybe I won't do oil pastels this time, because I did it this time so you can see what I did. But I started out with the yellow in the middle, and I went to like a lighter orange, and I tried to make it look like flames coming out, and then I went to a darker orange, and then I went to red, and when I got to the red level, I started leaving streaks of white on purpose to make it look like it's round, smooth, juicy, and reflective of the light, to make it look realistic. So I left some white spaces to show where the light would reflect. And then last, on the outside here, I used kind of an indigo purple color to add on top of my red to make that red look just a little bit darker. And it doesn't really look purple. You probably wouldn't have guessed I would have used purple if I hadn't told you, but I don't have a darker red, so I did that to make it darker. And then out here on the outside I did a yellow, a light orange, and then a blue. And so that's what I'd recommend if you were going to do pastels, but I think I am going to try watercolor this time. So give me just a second and I will do that.